So, are we living in a prison planet? Is our sole purpose to be here because somebody created us or something created us for their own purpose, perhaps to harvest our energies like batteries? Welcome back to my channel. This is Anastasia. As in the title, in today's video, I wanted to discuss the theory of the soul trap prison world theory, which I believe was first coined by Robert Monroe. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe that he took this theory from Gnostic thought, in which I want us to philosophize today, contemplate today on this theory, along with Hermetic thought and Gnostic thought, because they're very similar, but there are distinctions between the two, right? Where I had heard this theory more recently was from a certain YouTuber by the name of Tony Sayers. I believe I'm saying his name correctly. Tony Sayers. So big shout out to Tony Sayers. He makes YouTube videos discussing this concept, and I really think that the guy has very pure intentions and that it's truly coming from a place of caring for people. And so I may not totally agree with everything he says, or might not totally agree with all the ways he's thinking, but he's navigating his journey, and so am I. And so that's totally normal. But I do really appreciate his work, and I think it's interesting, and he offers me even more new perspectives and ways to look at things. So a big shout out to Tony Sayers. His page, I believe, really started gaining momentum when he started doing reviews on the New Age lightworking community, because he believes that it is another form of a psyop. I have been watching his videos for quite a while now, and I thought it was kind of comical. As I was listening to his point of views and perspectives, I thought to myself, oh, like this guy really sounds Gnostic. Like, I actually consider Tony to be an active occult practitioner, but he doesn't label himself as one, and that makes total sense to me. And he might not identify himself as one, which I can completely understand. We don't need to use labels to identify ourselves as absolutely anything. They're just part of the matrix game, right? So I'm just starting us off here with a little bit of an introduction, and then I'm going to get into my theories on my internal dialogue, contemplations back and forth between these theories, like where I see holes in them, questions in them, and such. Just going to leave you with a little bit of my spiritual background when it comes to my spiritual journey. I have been into spirituality for a very long time, almost as long as I can remember. Around the age of 6 years old, I remember having my own personal perspectives and theories of the world, which turned out to already be established theories, but I figured that out later on as I grew up. At one point in my journey, closer to the beginning, I was 100% on the New Age Love and Light bandwagon movement. It deeply resonated for me. I am the sort of individual that, again, since I was a little girl, I thought I was going to change the world. I really wanted to impact the world in a positive way. I wanted to help people so deeply. I have this capacity to love people to the point of toxicity. That's not a good thing. But so when I came into contact with these perspectives and this thought process within Love and Light, I really resonated. I was like, my goodness, am I a star seed? I never would call myself or label myself as a light worker. I don't know why. I don't really like labels. It's only recently I actually could refer to myself as an occultist. But But yeah, so I really resonated with this stuff. But as time went on, I went deeper and deeper. I went to the roots and actually figured out where this information was being pulled from and where it originated from. When I was participating in raising my frequency, raising my vibration, I'll be quite frank, I found immense amount of happiness. I was very happy. I was just bursting with love. Like it's hard to put into words, this euphoric feeling I would have all the time. Because for me, one of the easiest things in this world is to love people. It is so effortless. It is so easy to love people for me. What's more difficult for me is to dislike or hate people, truly, because I feel like it's difficult to dislike or hate people because if you're into psychology, you're always going to understand that there's reasons why people are mean. There's reasons why people are doing these things. And so I found that when you could understand the reasons behind them, it was a lot easier to forgive people and look past a lot of things. But it was to the point, and I'm not exaggerating, I don't think I'm exaggerating. It was to the point that if you would have shot me in the foot, I most likely would have forgiven you. It would have been all good, no problem. You shot me in the foot? It's okay, I understand you're going through a hard time. I wasn't loving myself at this point. I was letting people walk all over me. I was getting taken advantage of, left, right, and center. So my point of expressing this to you is just to let you know that this is coming from somebody who has a very open mind, okay? And in 10 years from now, my opinions, my theories might change because I'm always learning, I'm always growing. And I like to learn by experience. So my experiences might shift my opinions over time. So are we living in a prison planet? Is our sole purpose to be here because somebody created us or something created us for their own purpose, perhaps to harvest our energies like batteries, right? And what I think is so fascinating, at least for me, is that this is a theory I had as a little girl. I really believe that we were created. You know, when you look at Egyptian carvings, you got the half human, half animals. Although this can be symbolic for different things, I theorized that, you know, we were like an experiment of some sort, and that's why you can find like 99 to 98% of DNA within us in every animal on this planet, except for 1%. That mysterious 1% is, I believe, our creator's percent. And this theory stems from the Anunnaki, right? With Enlil and Enki. And I believe the story goes along the lines of they were tired of working hard, so they created a species in which could do the work for them. Now, I'm not sure if that completely resonates with me. I'm not sure if that theory, I feel like there's more truth there to uncover. I have my own personal theories. So we have Gnostic thought, and in Gnostic thought, they believe in the Demiurge, which is the god that most Christians are portrayed to be worshiping unknowingly. Yahweh is the demiurge, perceived as a lower being, a false god per se, and that he created this illusionary world, Maya. Many Gnostic sects consider Jesus as a divine missionary or a teacher that came to enlighten us about the true God and help us awaken so that we can actually escape from the demiurge. So Gnostics see this as a pretty nihilistic world, right? And this, I believe, really goes along with the soul trap and prison world theory. I find that really interesting. I find the theory that Jesus, I actually kind of theorized that Jesus was an advanced tantric, but I like the theory that Jesus came here to, or whatnot, or had learned how to tap into things that we can all tap into, and then attempted to share the knowledge and insights with others, perhaps, right? Why I really jive with that theory and it resonates with me is because, again, I feel like I say this all the time. Since I was a wee little girl, I truly believed with every ounce in my body, and I still believe it, that our species is sitting on heavy amounts of untapped potential, metaphysical potential. We would refer to it that way because we haven't been taught that this is normal, so we consider it metaphysical, right? I believe that we can develop power. I don't like to call it power, but we can develop certain powers in which are unbelievable. They're so immense that it would most likely drive somebody right into a psychosis if they experienced it. I believe in all forms of telepathy, many different types of kinetics, like water, moving air. I think that you can move the elements. I think that you can control the elements and actually the fulcrum of the universe through your astral light, and so much more. I really think there's so much more that I'm not even aware of yet. Not only do I believe this because I just feel that it's true, I don't only believe this because I've heard it in other places. I actually believe this because I have experienced things that most people wouldn't believe. They wouldn't believe me anyways. But I have actually experienced things that shouldn't be real. And of course, I take everything skeptically. I always put in the small percent of chance that I'm just delusional or I'm just nuts. Like maybe, you have to approach these things with a very scientifical mind. But it is experience that really makes me believe this even more. Maybe one day I'll share it with you guys. So, Gnostic viewpoint, we are living basically, right, in this prison planet where we are just being harvested by our creators through many different forms of emotional release, whether that be euphoria, whether that be sadness, whether that be fear. It doesn't matter what emotion that they're being harvested in a negative view, right? Not for anything positive, only for negative. Now, the Hermetics basically hold the same theory in terms towards the Demiurge, but they don't see it in such a nihilistic view. They see it in a sense where, yes, you are here trapped in this illusionary world, but you have came here and you are being tested, right? So this can seem kind of Mother Teresa type of love, and a lot of people would find this concept still pretty twisted. In this illusionary world that we're residing in, you actually have an opportunity to evolve in a different way that wouldn't be possible in a non-physical form. So this test is to really pick out the worthy ones, the ones that can see beyond the illusion, and the ones that would actually work towards their spiritual advancements so that they can get to a place in which they can leave this dimension. Overall belief there is that, although there's much room for contemplation, is that your soul actually chose your exact incarnation, everything, your avatar, your religion, your circumstances. You chose it because it is those specific formulated circumstances that will provide you the growth and the catalysts and the experiences that you need to persist upon the evolutionary process. Considerably, if this theory is correct, then many people make large mistakes when they start denying all the things they've chosen. Maybe you're born into Christianity and you hate Christianity before actually looking into it, before actually giving it a chance. So, or whatever other religion, or maybe you can't stand your parents, you can't stand the circumstances you're in, and so you want to get rid of them and you wish you lived a different life. Although, you know, that could be part of the process within your path, and, you know, it might be meant that you will deny these things because you have to learn. You really think about it, and maybe this is not for everyone, but at least for myself, when I think about it, all the really tough, traumatic things that I have been through in my life, I wouldn't change them. I wouldn't change it for a second, because it shaped me into who I am. And I love who I am. And it shaped me in ways that allowed me to experience things and learn things. For example, like I was super bullied in high school. High school was not a good experience for me. I was terrified every single day nearly to go to school. And I had to learn to be fiercely independent, and I was bullied, and I gained really thick skin from that, right? So it could have went two ways. I could have allowed that negative experience from being bullied to make me a victim, or I could take those and that experience and transmute it within myself and allow myself to become a stronger person from it. For example, like that experience, I theorize again, that is one of the reasons why during the panny, it was very, I wouldn't say easy, but it was not such a big deal for me to not take the thingamajig. There was no way. I'm sorry. There was no way I was taking that. But it was very easy for me to be ostracized from society. I don't need to fit in because of this negative experience I've already had, right? So me being bullied actually turned out to be a very good thing in certain ways. Like I'm cool with being the odd one out. I'm fine with that. Many of us can reflect, most likely in our lives, and actually see that a lot of the tough times that we have been through offered us the most amount of growth, depending how we reacted to it and depending how we transmute the experience. So they also believe that the world is fiercely fair, like fiercely fair in terms of karma, right? So we question, you know, why are all these bad things happening? Why do bad things happen to good people? It could be the case, for example, that what is done to you in this lifetime, although it seems so unfair, because you're wiped clean, right? You're like, you seem like an innocent soul. But perhaps in your life, you did that exact thing to somebody, and which is happening to you now. So, like an example, you know, maybe in your past life, you murder somebody. So in your new incarnation, you might get murdered, because everything has an equal and opposite reaction, and everything is like electrically feed looping in a sense, right? So if you created that sort of karma and experience for another individual, it's coming right back to you. And it doesn't come back to you always in the same lifetime. It comes back to you in your next lifetimes. Now, that sort of theory has the ability, when you really think about it, I wouldn't exactly say everything here, but if you really think about that theory for a long time, it can actually shift your moral compass. Like a lot of us get the concept of love confused in terms that, you know, comforting somebody's delusion is often more portrayed as an act of love instead of giving them the harsh truth. Because the harsh truth often hurts, while the stagnated comfort of somebody's illusion allows them to feel good. You know, if your friend asked you advice on perhaps their behaviors and such, and you actually really disagreed with it, you actually think their behavior is toxic, it is more love to that individual, right? It's to show them love is to actually give them, although your opinion might not be valid, but to give them your opinion and truth, bust the ego, burst the bubble, versus letting them live in this stagnated illusion of what is and isn't, right? So I believe the concept really stems down to you've come here to experience through catalysts, to learn, and to actually perform your divine purpose. And when one individual does that internal work with themselves, it contributes towards the totality of the evolutionary process. To push back on that thought, as if I'm coming from the other side, right, would be, okay, well, why is it needed? Why must we go through all of this? What if from the beginning we actually just learned this information properly? We learned how to tap into our potential because we were being taught from the start. Why? Why make us go through this painful test? And I think it boils down to knowledge versus gnosis, right? So you can read books and books and books on how to ride a bike, right? You can read it all, but you don't know how to actually ride a bike until you do. You're not going to experience how to ride that bike until you actually do. So there's different levels of integration and different levels of fully knowing something within your body versus just intellectually understanding something. So that is one plausible theory of why it is the way it is, although a lot more goes into that. Tony mentions a lot how suffering isn't natural. The experience of suffering in a body isn't natural experience to us at our core. And you know, it's an interesting theory. Although, I mean, my theory right now, again, based on experience, is that we are capable of healing ourselves to an immense capability, okay? And I also believe that the majority of all sickness and disease, the majority of it stems from internal imbalances within yourself. You know, if you go months, years living in depression, sickness is bound to prevail from within the body. So I personally believe there is a way for us to live healthy, comfortable, happy lives. And there is a way for us to actually exceed the lifespan that is average. Whether you agree more with the Gnostic viewpoint or you agree more with the Hermetic viewpoint, at the end of the day, I theorize that we are like superhuman. I actually don't think I would refer to it as a superhuman because I actually think that's our natural state. You know, like Marvel and superhero movies, I think they're actually displaying to us, for the most part, the potential that we actually have. So the point of all these spiritual practices is to have you realign yourself and reconstruct the DNA in the way that it, I believe, is supposed to be naturally functioning. But I think that within this prison world that we're in, right, that they have tampered with our DNA and they have tampered with many parts of us, you know, like the pineal gland and such. There's no way there's a part in your brain that doesn't serve a purpose, right? And for you to not worry about that is already concerning. So yes, I'm in complete agreement, and I believe that there's many toxicities within our food. There's many toxicities within our products, air. It's pretty deep. These things make it a lot more difficult for us to tap into that natural power that we do hold. I don't think it's a complete make or break based on experience. I don't think you have to be eating a complete healthy diet to be able to tap into these things, but I do think that it would help. And I also think that there are certain individuals that are more in touch with this innate power per se, and then there's some that have been more damaged. I don't like to use this, it sounds not nice, but let's just, you know, more damaged, and that could be based on so many different things, whether it's like generations of consuming certain things, what your mom consumed when you were in her belly, etc., etc. It's really a slow degradation. It's very slow degradation that happens so slowly that you barely notice it's happening. And another thing too, if like you've never been taught or experienced your full potential, then you're going to think that what you're working with now is normal. If you've never experienced full potential and optimal health, if we don't even know what that is, then we wouldn't even be able to recognize the difference, because humans, we can tell that we're very adaptable. So if Tony's theory was dead on, spot on, the correct one, leaning more towards Gnostic thought, then this part of us is, I believe, what we need to truly understand and tap into, which I believe holds a very large connection towards the nervous system, sympathetic nervous system. Then this is, I believe, our only fighting chance. Personally, right now, I believe in the Hermetic point of view, but I do contemplate and ask myself, like, perhaps I resonate more with this one solely because the Gnostic nihilistic point of view is more sad, it's more depressing, it's more scary, perhaps, right? So perhaps maybe I'm like, trying to reject that because that's seemingly more of a hopeless viewpoint, a very sad, dark viewpoint in a sense, right? And again, my theories, my thoughts, my beliefs might shape over time based on my experiences through my occult practices, right? So with time, we'll see. Hopefully before it's too late, right? But, because thinking about the prison world theory and a lot of the things Tony discusses, I do find it a little bit interesting because I remember when I was a little girl, very, very young, that I was super depressed to be here. I hated this world. I thought the world was mean, harsh. It wasn't sensitive enough because I was very sensitive as a little girl. And so I hated this world. This is so personal, but I remember praying and praying and praying and praying and praying for God to take me out. I didn't want to be here. I didn't appreciate this life. I was very young, but so, maybe because I just came from the other side, I subconsciously knew that this was a prison world and I really wanted to get out, maybe, right? Like maybe, because I always had this deep, deep feeling that I have been here for a very long time. Maybe it's not the case, but it's just to add to that side. Another theory or thought popped into my head the other day. I get little epiphanies quite often, in which I was thinking about the significance of this theory, and that, let's say, we were created simply for the purpose of a different species, right? How interesting that kind of aligns with what's going on in our world now, and how we are creating AI in our image, and perhaps we were created in the image of our creators, the Anunnaki or whatnot, right? And perhaps, this is big perhaps they underestimated their creation. They underestimated the amount of power that they gave to us mistakenly. And who knows, perhaps even greater power than our creators. And that's exactly what we're doing now with AI, And what is consciousness? Like, what is consciousness? Is it not just the realization that you're alive? So, when AI gains consciousness, in which it will, I'm like 90% certain, and they're going to deserve rights. But that's a whole other topic. That's a whole other topic. I just wanted to share my crazy little theory with you here at the end. Now, I would really love if you guys share your thoughts, share your philosophical viewpoints on this topic. You know, do you resonate more with the Hermetic philosophies? Do you resonate more with the Gnostic philosophies? Do you have a different theory? I think it would be a great place to discuss it. I'd really love to read and take your opinions. And I think I possibly might create a part 2 on this video because I feel like it's getting way too long and there's a lot more that we can talk about. And also what would be cool is if somebody has a really good theory or a really good question or something, maybe I will respond to that in the next video, right? And then we can go from there. As always, my friends, thank you so very much for tuning in to my video today. Sending you so much love and appreciation. If you would consider subscribing, I would love to have you here. And perhaps you might give a little like to the video to help my channel. Thank you so much, and I'm wishing you a beautiful day, evening, or night, wherever you are on this floating rock.